Good morning. For our devotions this week, I'm kind of looking more again at the youth of our congregation, but I think it's appropriate for anybody of any age. And there's been a number of pieces that have been kind of coming together for me this week, and I thought I'd share some of those pieces with you and help us to spend some time thinking about that. And the piece that I've been thinking about is generosity. This is a time of year where often we are looking at ways in which we can share the good gifts of the earth, share our talents, our abilities. And I think youth are also included in that, and we have great, talented kids. I'd like to throw a thought out for you. I received a letter from one of the assistants to the bishop this week talking about our intent. An intent is a promise that we make of intending to give a certain amount to our synod, and in turn, they also give to World Hunger and other organizations that depend on generous people. And so this one came also this week. This is from Reverend Robin Brown. She is the Mission Funding Director of Congregations in the ELCA. And I love it. She kind of helps coordinate World Hunger. And she was thanking us. Thank you for your gift to World Hunger. The gift that you gave of $630 will go to share the good news with many people in places where hunger and poverty are experienced every day. More than 60 countries, including the United States, need these gifts to bring clean water, health care, agriculture, livestock, education, peace, and justice to them. So I like the fact that our congregation is trying to find ways to be generous. But I also want to include a Bible passage. It's taken from Paul's writing to the Corinthians, and it's an encouragement for generosity. And so this is taken from chapter 8 of 2 Corinthians. I'm going to read this passage for you for consideration this week. We want you to know, brothers and sisters, about the grace of God that has been granted to the church of Macedonia. For during a severe ordeal of affliction, their abundant joy and their extreme poverty have overflowed in a wealth of generosity on their part. For as I can testify, they voluntarily gave according to their means and even beyond their means, begging us earnestly for the privilege of sharing in this ministry to the saints. And this not merely as we expected, but they gave themselves first to the Lord, and by the will of God to us, so that we might urge Titus that as he had already made a beginning, so he should also complete this generous undertaking among you. Now as you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in utmost eagerness, and in our love for you, so we want you to excel also in this generous undertaking. Sometimes we need to be encouraged in our generosity, but also in our sense of call. And we've been talking about call. That was a part of our text on Sunday, and that idea that God calls us, each and every one of us, to ministry. One of the tasks included in a call for a pastor is to identify young men and women who may have gifts for ministry. And so I'm always looking for those young people who show signs of the Spirit moving in them and maybe calling them. And sometimes we need just to be prodded a little bit, encouraged. So I'm going to encourage you young people this week to be thinking about that. Not only you old people and elderly people, middle-aged people who should also be looking at your callings, but especially our young people today, because our church is in desperate need of pastors. So I want to encourage you to think about that this week as a part of your devotional life. Think about the generosity of this church who gave even though they were going through tough times. And I think that sometimes these difficult times are moments when the Spirit is working. And certainly this pandemic time and this unrest in our country are all times when we are probably more sensitive to the movement of the Spirit. So I just want to encourage each and every one of you, but especially our young people, to think about, is God calling me into ministry? Is there something I can do? Is the generosity that I can give, not just monetary, but also myself, my person? And we ask that you might think about that this week. I invite you to just join in a word of prayer as we begin our week together. Gracious God, we thank you for the calling that you have given to each of us. Some into ministry, yes, but some into ministries that may not be seen or noticed. Sometimes it's a generous heart. Sometimes it's the ability to just be a good listener. But ministry is ministry. It is all those things that shape and form and give good ability for the church to survive and to thrive. So we ask that you might use our gifts and our abilities this week. Call to our young and old alike, but especially our young these days, that they might consider this call to ministry for the sake of Christ. We ask this in your precious name. Amen. Have a great week, everybody.